Hello, welcome to Claret and Blue. My name's Dan Rolinson. I'm joined by John Townley this afternoon to talk about the Europa Conference League. John, how are you?
I'm really good, mate. Yeah, I'm well, thank you.
And we'll start with some good news and some congratulations that you are, worst kept secret for us over the last week or so. You're the new club writer, replacing Ashley Priest. Congratulations on that, well deserved, and you'll absolutely smash it. We will talk about that in a bit more detail and what it means for the podcast and what it means for your kind of next 12 months or so in a later video that we'll probably be producing this week to come out at some point. But yeah, congratulations. You must be buzzing with that.
Yeah, I can't wait to sort of get started with it now. I suppose thank you as well to like our audience, our supporters across this platform, and obviously across Birmingham Mail as well. We don't have that platform without our viewers and our audience. So yeah, I don't know. I've got a lot that I want to achieve in the role. We've always spoken about it. There's a lot that we think we can push in terms of Villa content and the way the club's going. And it's almost like there's no ceiling to it really. So yeah, I'm really excited to get going. And it's a bit of a blank canvas, but there's a lot of stuff that we can build on, or I can build on from what Ash has done over the last 4 years. He did so much so well in terms of how he engaged. He's written content as well, so like his Q&As, notebooks, match day coverage, all that sort of stuff, all that I really want to build on, and then add bits here and there too. So it's about how can we sort of progress that and evolve it, because this industry it changes all the time. Like from what we were doing last year or the year before that, like I joined 2 years ago when Matt Kendrick sort of put me into a role, and so much changed since then. That's only 2 years ago. So yeah, then Steve Wilson took me on, has done really well for me. And yeah, learning from yourself, Dan, and Ash has done wonders for me. So yeah, really looking forward to just sort of getting the ball rolling now.
That's very kind of you to say. And like a pure Emery press conference starts by thanking the fans. I like that. Without the supporters, we'd have nothing. Your first task is to try and work out what the hell the Europa Conference League is with me. Now, I'm very excited about this, of course. It's European football. I'm buzzing over yesterday still. A massive smile on my face all morning. And again, last night when we were getting ready to do the podcast, it's like, I want to start. Like, I want to get on air now. And today it's like, let's talk about it again. Let's talk Villa. Like, it's an exciting time. And I'm hoping that this is how we feel throughout the rest of the summer and going into next season, and we keep producing content. Yeah. But it's a funny old competition, isn't it? The Conference League. There's a lot of different rules. There's a lot of permutations on who you might play and playoff legs and all sorts. And there's a little bit of confusion, I think. And I think that's fair amongst the fan base, that some people are talking about playoff rounds or qualifying rounds. Do we go into the group stages? Who do we play? Are we seeded? Are we unseeded? Are Juventus in it? Does Sevilla need to drop points in La Liga? Like, there's so many questions. So we're going to try our best. When I say we, you're going to try your best to tidy up, I guess, a little bit of some of the misconceptions about the competition and explain it a little bit. So the Europa Conference League is in its second season currently. Jose Mourinho's Roma won it in the first year, last year. David Moyes' West Ham are in the final this year against Fiorentina, which is being played on June the 7th. It's classed as the third tier European competition, Champions League, Europa Conference League in third place there. What do you think about the competition overall? Because I know we did a video, I don't know, at some point in April kind of going, well, it's not that much to celebrate. It's a small competition, but it's a step forward in progress, and it's a step, if you win it, into the Europa League.
I don't know if it was backlash. I got a bit of sort of criticism for what I was saying, but maybe it was lost a little bit. But my point was that I absolutely want to be in the Conference League, and I actually wanted to be in the Conference League before the Europa League, because I think that's better.
You did say that, to be fair.
It was just that the reason why I want to be in the Conference League is different to what other people maybe want. I think some people just want to win a trophy or to be back in Europe, but I see it more as a stepping stone. That sounds like it's. I don't want to degrade the competition, but if we win it, we're in the Europa League group stage, and that's huge, because that would mean we'd have to finish 6th or 5th in the Premier League, which is incredibly difficult to do. Especially when you're playing European football. So it gives us a huge platform to do that now. And that's why I was so happy to be in this competition. And we will be going to different European countries and having that European tour if we can get through this playoff, as we'll touch on in a minute. But yeah, being back in Europe and having that sort of tangible success, and not necessarily tangible success, but we've gone full circle, haven't we? We've gone from relegation fights to European nights. You sort of reversed the term, haven't we? So yeah, absolutely buzzing with it. And I don't want that video to sort of be a thing of, oh, well, you know, does John even want to be in the Conference League? I absolutely do. It's just that I think it's fantastic to be within a shout of then getting into Europa League. I think that's my sort of motivation to try and win it. And obviously, if we win a trophy, then brilliant. But I don't think it would compare to winning a Europa League trophy, or obviously what we've won before in terms of the Champions League. So, yeah, you know, ecstatic to get in the competition, and let's hope that we can really make use of it and go far and hopefully win the thing.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of talk, and we've been probably guilty of this as well, of not undermining it, but kind of going, it's a lesser competition. Villa are not favourite to win it, but if you had a list of 5 or 6, you know, you put Villa in there. So if it's kind of this easier competition, let's just go and win it. There's kind of talk about, well, yeah, but we've still got to get through a playoff round first. Like, if we are a seeded side, which we'll get into in a sec, there's a very good chance we'll play somebody in there that we should absolutely be beating. And if we are kind of confident enough to say we're going to go and win the whole thing, one playoff game isn't enough to kind of get concerned about. But it's kind of almost the terminology of it, I guess, that we've qualified for Europe. We have, but we kind of haven't. We've qualified for a Europa Conference League playoff spot at the moment. And if you lose that, you don't go into the group stages. So we're kind of there, but we're kind of not. It's a very strange thing. It's not like you've just qualified for the group stages outright and you go into it and you know you're playing a minimum of 6 games against clubs around the country, around Europe. It's one playoff game first before you get there. So very quickly, my kind of understanding of the format of the competition, there's 3 qualifying rounds. First qualifying round, second and third. Then there's a playoff round. Then it's the group stage. Last 16 over 2 legs, quarterfinal over 2 legs, semi-final over 2 legs, final. There's also a weird little system in there that if you finished second in the group stage, you play a playoff game against third place in the Europa League, I think, for a place in the last 16. So from game 1 to the final, if you win the trophy, you're playing 15 matches. If you go through that stage of playing second versus third in the Europa League, you play 17 matches. So it's a hefty old kind of competition to get through from start to finish. Now, the kind of confusion, and I hope that we're not adding to the confusion here, because we could be spreading misinformation ourselves, but our understanding of it is that the first, second and third qualifying stages is a bit like the preliminary rounds of the FA Cup. It's irrelevant to Aston Villa because they go straight in at the third round in January for the FA Cup. Villa goes straight to the playoff stage, we think, which is at the back end of August over 2 legs. So the first, second and third qualifyings are for, with no disrespect, lesser clubs, lesser nations, worse teams, effectively, to fight out amongst themselves. Villa kind of bypass all that and go into this one-off playoff. Am I correct there?
Yeah. So no team can qualify for the group stage outright. Every team has,
which I quite like that.
Yeah, I do in a way. Every team has to play that playoff. So whether you're Juventus, who might or might not be in the competition, but whether you're Bayer Leverkusen, Aston Villa, or Steaua Bucharest, you have to play a playoff game. And yeah, there's 3 qualifying rounds before. So, for example, Vitória Guimarães, who obviously Villa have a stake in, I think they go in at qualifier round 2. So they will have to play 4 games before they even play the playoff. So it's a good thing that we have to avoid that sort of backlog of games. We'll be straight in the playoff round, and that, as you say, Dan, will be around the second week of the season, I think. Tottenham played Passos Ferreira, who are Portuguese. They lost the away game and then won the home game when they had their Europa Conference League campaign 2 years ago. West Ham beat AEK Larnaca from Cyprus, I think. So, yeah, the teams we'll get on to, but at the moment, it's highly likely. It's likely that Villa will be a seeded team, so the better teams as such, and you'll be playing unseeded teams who are presumably more beatable, I suppose you could say, and that will be a home and away leg, playoff round, aggregate, all that good stuff, and then it's then the group stage, and we'll move on to that in a second, because it is quite confusing with different coefficients and where will Villa play. When we qualified, I thought, it's going to be quite straightforward. Villa are going to be in this pot, or we're going to play this team, and it's going to be drawn out a hat. And it's like, well, no, actually, there's loads of sort of different minutiae that are going to affect basically where Villa will end up. But it seems to be pretty much, sorted, apart from a few sort of works that we'll speak about.
Yeah, so at the moment we've qualified for a playoff game in the Europa Conference League. That's the minimum we'll get here, 2 games, basically.
That's for every team. Every team has to go through a playoff.
So talk to me about seeded versus unseeded then. What kind of sides are in the seeded part and what kind of sides are in the unseeded? And what do Villa have to do to guarantee themselves be seeded? Although we should come to that in a sec because that involves La Liga and who wins the Europa League, which again, mad. It's kind of just like wait and see what happens basically because Villa are going to be in it either on one side of the pot or the other. We know that at least, but it'll be nice to be in the seeded side because it's an easier playoff game then.
Basically, yeah. So some teams have already qualified for to be for this playoff round. Obviously, we have, and at the moment we're on the seeded section. But our coefficient, which is how it's sort of split, so you have, I don't know how many teams it is. Maybe it's 40, and 20 will be unseeded, 20 unseeded, and then it's based on your coefficient. So half of that, or not literally half, but some of that will be what league you're in. So does your league have a good coefficient? Obviously, the Premier League does. But Villa's coefficient in European football is obviously quite poor at the moment. So we're just about unseeded. That could be changed, but it's unlikely, as we'll touch on in a minute. So the teams that, I suppose you say have qualified, Villa have qualified and we should be seeded. Bayer Leverkusen of Germany, they've qualified and they should be seeded as well. In Italy, you're looking at the moment, Juventus, who are in that Conference League position. But there's a question mark whether they'll even get their licence to play in Europe next year because of the problems that they've got. So that's a question mark. And they might even finish in that position. They may finish higher, which means that Roma would then drop down and play in the Conference League. Or if they are, as I say, banned from playing European football, then you're looking at a Torino or Fiorentina that would come in and be the Italian representative.
But then Roma are in the Europa League final as well.
Exactly. So that would depend on Roma winning their competition, Fiorentina winning the Conference League as well, which would mean Torino go in. So it's any one of those four, but it's one of them. Yeah, and then so Germany, Bayer Leverkusen, France at the moment you're looking at Stade Rennes, who are in 5th at the moment, so they're in the Conference League position. That could change because Monaco could get it or Lille could drop down, but at the moment it's Stade Rennes who we played start of this season in terms of pre-season, so we've already been there. Spain at the moment is Osasuna in 7th, which surprised me. They kind of came out of nowhere. I didn't think that they were there. There are a couple of other teams that could do Conference League, so you're looking at Girona, who are just below them and they play them on the final day, so that's a bit confusing. Athletic Club, who obviously quite a good team, and Rayo Vallecano potentially as well, and Sevilla, which kind of brings us to the, should we just get this out of the way because this is the kind of the big...
If they finish 7th, if Sevilla finished 7th in La Liga, they would qualify for the Conference League and be a seeded side, which would put Villa into the unseeded category. But Sevilla are also in the Europa League final. So if they were to win the Europa League final, they would qualify for the Champions League and their league position would be irrelevant, which means Sevilla wouldn't even be in the Conference League at all and Villa would remain a seeded side. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's bang on,
If they lose the Europa League final, they don't get any European competition through the Europa League final because they lose. So they're dependent on league position. If they do finish 7th, they come into the Conference League, become a seeded side. Villa don't. If they don't finish 7th, which is probably unlikely to be fair because there is 3 or 4 teams, at least 3, I think, that are above them. Like you said, Osasuna and Girona, play each other? So surely that means whatever the result in that game, one of those is probably going to finish 7th, regardless of what Sevilla do.
If one of them win,
possibly. We either need Sevilla to win the Europa League and not be in the Conference League at all, or we need them to lose the Europa League, but also not finish 7th in the La Liga.
Yeah, I mean, all that's correct. I think it's unlikely that they'd finish 7th in La Liga anyway, just because there's traffic ahead of them. They play Sociedad, who are a very good team, but they've already qualified for the Champions League, I believe. So, it's very unlikely that they finish 7th, but if they were to, it means Villa would then theoretically play a harder team in the playoffs, basically.
Is it a guarantee that if Sevilla are in it, they would be seeded because they've been in Europe more than Villa, have obviously won competitions, the coefficient is better. So if they do come into the Conference League, they'll definitely be seeded, which means Villa will be the ones to drop into the unseeded category.
Because currently we're the lowest of the seeded, so we would then drop down. So... do you want me to go through some seeded and unseeded teams to kind of give a perspective of who we could be playing in the playoffs? Yeah,
give me a potential matchup. That I think somebody said that the draw is August 7th, and then we play the 24th and the 31st. So I think the Premier League season starts on something like the 12th or 13th.
So currently there's about 15 teams that have qualified for either the qualification round or the playoff round who are unseeded. So you've got, at the moment, Norwegian team Bodo Glimt, Lech Poznan of Poland, Hapoel Beersheva of Israel, Djurgårdens, I think is the name. It's from Sweden. Apoel Nicosia, Besiktas, Arouca from Portugal, Vitória Guimarães, Bucharest from Romania, Legia Warsaw from Poland, Rosenborg from Norway, and Spartak Trnava from Slovakia. And a lot of those are in or will be in the qualifying round. So they're not in the playoff yet, but they're projected to be in qualifying because they are better than the teams who will be in qualifying. So it might be like
this is so confusing, isn't it? So those sides they're not guaranteed to be in the playoff round that Villa are in.
No,
they've still got to get through the first stages, but because I've heard of about 4 teams there. So the teams that those guys are playing are going to be people that no one's ever heard of, and they're likely to win.
Yeah. So take Besiktas, for example. We've all heard of Besiktas. They could be playing. So Besiktas will go in at the second qualifying round, and if they have, I don't know, TNS, for example, they should beat TNS. They would, if they do, which is projected, they would go into the unseeded category. And then if we're seeded, obviously if Sevilla don't finish 7th, we could then play Besiktas in a playoff.
Yeah.
It would probably be as hard a game as you'd get, to be fair, in terms of being seeded and unseeded. Alternatively, Villa could be playing, to be fair, I don't want to kind of go on any of those teams. Arouca from Portugal, should we say, who I think finished below or ahead of Vitória, actually. So, yeah, and there's going to be other teams in there as well. You're looking at CSK Sevilla could get in there. Not qualified yet, but projected to because the season hasn't finished. So CSK Sevilla, Twente from Netherlands, who might be good. Other teams like that, and Rapid Vienna, which is a problem for us.
Yeah, that's a familiar name, isn't it?
Almost all of those unseeded teams will have to go through qualifying. So it's not a given that all of those will be in there, but that's the sort of quality or teams that you're looking at. And then in seeded, if I quickly run through those, I've already been through a few of them, so it's going to be like a Juventus or Torino, Roma, or the other team I mentioned, Fiorentina. Bayer Leverkusen will be in there. Club Brugge have qualified, and they will be seeded because their coefficient is very good. They get Champions League most years. Ghent from Belgium as well, they'll be in there. Partizan Belgrade, PAOK from Greece, Maccabi Tel Aviv, Victoria Pilsen will all be there, again, because they've been playing the Champions League. So they'll all be seeded, so Villa won't play those teams if Sevilla don't finish 7th. Other teams that could be playing in there whose seasons haven't finished, but they're projected to based on their current league position. You're looking at Basel from Switzerland, Panathinaikos, AZ Alkmaar, who played West Ham recently, Dynamo Kiev, Fenerbahce, a French team. So you're looking at Monaco, Stade Rennes, Lille, Cluj as well, who've been in Champions League from Romania. And again, a lot of those teams have to go through qualifying. Villa are lucky, and not lucky because they're a Premier League team, but that's because we don't have to go through qualifying. So we go to playoffs straight away because we're a Premier League team. So there's basically one representative from the top 5 leagues in terms of Italy, Germany, France, England, and Spain. Yeah, there's one representative from each of those teams. Portugal have 2. But it's not a Sporting Braga, Porto, or Benfica. They're the sort of weak teams, and obviously Vitória's in there. So Villa will be one of the favourites to win the competition for sure if we can get through the playoff round. But it's also likely that we're not going to be in pot 1 for the groups. So that's another hurdle. Yeah.
So let's say that Villa play X team in the playoffs. They're seeded against an unseeded side. They beat them 5-0 home and away, and we bust ourselves through to the group stage. First of all, do we know when the group stages are? Have you got that information in front of you? I know it's Thursday nights. Is it?
I'm pretty sure it's September that the first game will be, but I'll honestly, I don't know. When the Champions League play, Europa League always plays, doesn't it? And at the same time, the Europa League plays conference every Thursday night. If there's a Champions League game on, Villa will be playing basically on the next night, the Thursday night.
Villa get through the playoff round. They get themselves into the group stages. There's pot 1 to pot 4. Pot 1, the best teams. Pot 4, the worst teams. Why are Villa then into pot 2?
Coefficient again. 8 groups of 4 teams. So that means that the first 8 teams are going to be the best coefficient. Villa won't have the one of the first 8 coefficient, which means we'll be in pot 2. We will be by far and away the best team in pot 2 if we get through the playoff round. So we're the team to avoid. We're going to be one of the best teams in the competition anyway. We have, for me, the best manager in the competition. We have some of the best players. We have we're a Premier League team who, over the course of 25 games, have finished second in terms of only Manchester City have got more points, that sort of stuff. So we'll be the team to avoid for sure. So in pot 1, you're looking at, again, so your first Italian team. Again, this could be changed because, like, Torino, for example, might not have a good coefficient, but it might be better than Villa's. I'm not totally sure. But at the moment, Juventus definitely do. So, or Roma would. So one of those, the German team by Leverkusen, Club Brugge will be in there. Basel, if they get through, they'll be in there. AZ, if they get through, they'll be in there. Ghent or Gent, they've qualified. They should be in pot 1 too. Dynamo Kiev, if they qualify, they'll be in pot 1. And if Fenerbahce qualifies, then they should also be in pot 1. And then in pot 2, you're looking at Villa, Bodo Glimt, Victoria Pilsen, Maccabi Tel Aviv, PAOK, Partizan Belgrade. If Cluj get in, they'll be in there. And then possibly, depending on the French team, for example, if it's Monaco, they could be in pot 1. If it's Lille, they'll be probably in pot 2. So it's a moving part still. So we'll know for sure the end of next weekend what the pots will look like. But again, that's the sort of level that you're looking at. So Villa will be playing a better team in their group, obviously, than if they were in pot 1. But they should still have enough, I think, to top that group, unless it's a really top team like a Bayer Leverkusen or potentially Juventus. That would obviously be a bit of a struggle. But those are the teams you're going to have to beat to win the competition, aren't you? So,
First place in the group stage automatically goes into the last 16, as I mentioned earlier. And I'm pretty sure this is right, but somebody will prove me wrong in the comments if this isn't. If you finish second in your group, you play a third-placed group member from the Europa League, which is a bizarre way of doing it, but again, it's probably mixes the different competitions. So say Liverpool don't get through their group and have a terrible season and finish third in the Europa League group stage, Villa finish second in their group. Like, it's possible in theory, unless you can't play another English side, which I don't see why you wouldn't be able to. Villa could play a Europa Conference League qualifier last 16 game against Liverpool, who've dropped down from the Europa League. Is that right?
So to take an example, Fiorentina, who were in the final this year, they had to play this round of game, this little playoff thing that we're talking about. They had to play Braga, who came down from the Europa League, and they beat them convincingly home and away.
So this year, Fiorentina, who are a finalist, finished second in their group, played a playoff game against somebody from the Europa League, won it, and carried through into the progression of the rest of the competition.
So that's second, that's the route we'd have to go to get the final.
So after that, it's round of 16 over 2 legs, and the usual quarter-final 2 legs, semi-final 2 legs, and then the final. I've found some prize money things off Wikipedia, which I'll go through in a sec, which there's money to be made in this competition. It's a route for FFP and stuff like that, but it's also Wikipedia, so it might not be right. Also, while you were chatting through, found out some dates. I'm just going to read numbers out here, but August 7th is a playoff round draw, with the ties being played on the 24th and the 31st, as I said. The draw for the group stage takes place on the 1st of September, and the 6 games take place on September 21, October 5th, October 26th, November 9th, November 30th, December 14th. So we'll know whether Villa have got through to the round of 16 by Christmas. If Villa top their group, they advance straight into the round of 16. If they finish second, it will be a playoff with somebody from the third place of the Europa League, like we said. The draw for that second round game is before Christmas. The game is in February. The round of 16 draw, we're getting ahead of ourselves here, of course, is February 23rd, with the games on March 7th and March 14th. Quarter-final, April 11th and April 18th. Semi-final, May 2nd, May 9th, so in the lead up to the end of the Premier League season. And the final is on Wednesday, May 29th, 2024. So keep that date in your diaries free, just in case. Like we said, it's a hell of a lot of games, isn't it? Potentially 17 games, 15 games into the final. But as Emery said many times, we want more games. We want to be involved in these extra competitions. And as Matt said on the post-match show last night, when you start a season, how many trophies are you going to try to win? Villa probably aren't going to win the Premier League, let's face it. So that's 1 out of the 3 gone straight away. The League Cup is the easier of the FA of the cup competitions, because teams generally seem to take it less seriously. And the FA Cup is, again, kind of luck of the draw dependent. So there's 2 domestic trophies Villa could realistically go for. The Conference League, as much as you're relying on a playoff game to get through, and then a decent draw in the group stages, and obviously into the latter stages of the competition as well, it's still a competition that Villa are very much a potential winner. You take the extra games, you take the extra pressure, you take the draw that it brings for players, the rotation between squads, potential for youth players like Cameron Archer, Aaron Ramsey to get more game times in these lesser group stages. So it's absolutely a positive thing for Villa, and kind of the culmination of, if you do win the trophy, is qualification to the Europa League. So Villa could theoretically finish 10th next season, but win the Conference League and be in Europe the season after in the Europa League, which is, again, another step up.
Yeah, we'll go, say, hell for leather on all fronts, and we'll just see in February, March, where that's taken us, if that makes sense. So I don't see any, Emery works 24/7, doesn't he? So he will prepare for that game against Steaua Bucharest on Thursday, and then we'll prepare for the game against Fulham. But neither of those, in terms of the planning, if that makes sense, I don't think either will be disrupted by it. I think it's more so fatigue, fitness, that sort of thing. I think that's what will be that's the concern for me, rather than match preparation or anything like that. It's, how many miles do we have to fly to get to a Thursday night game, and then are we away against Newcastle on the weekend? Stuff like that. That's what concerns me more so than the preparation for whatever it may be. Because Emery, as you say, has done it for 16 years. He knows how to do it. He knows how to separate the week in terms of the training load and bits like that. We'll go after all competitions. We'll try and win every Premier League game. We'll try and win the FA Cup and the League Cup and the Conference League. We'll do all of it. It's just where are we going to fall, if that makes sense? Like, if we aim to win everything, we might fall. We're not going to win the league, but we'll fall short. And where are we going to finish? 6th, 7th, 8th? Who knows? But if we can try and do that with Europa Conference League, because it's a cup competition, if you win those games, you will win the tournament. So let's see where it takes us. And if we can win it, then it is a trophy, and it's European qualification. And again, it's not, Brighton, I think, have to go through a qualifying ground. I think, I might be wrong, but winning the Conference League puts you straight into the groups of the Europa League. So it's a huge incentive. And then again, that's sort of the natural progression of we're in Europe this year, we're in Europe again next year, and we're in the Europa League, which is, the tournament that we're trying to get to. Eventually it'll be the Champions League. But while we're not there yet, that's the competition we really want to be in. I just didn't want to be in a position where we had Europe this year, then next year our league form might have struggled and we were in the Europa League and we don't win it. So then next year we're not in Europe. So I think it's just a natural progression, and bring it on. I think we've got a really good chance of certainly going far, based on the teams that we're going to be playing, and no disrespect to them, because no game will be easy after the even in the group stage, but after certainly the round of 16 and stuff like that, it's going to be, any away game is going to be tough in Europe. So we'll see where it takes us. But Emery's the man to, as he's proven, the man to sort of guide us through it.
Taking over from Ash at this point where Villa are heading is very, very exciting. Like, you're covering Europa League, maybe Europa Conference League Thursday nights. We might be winning trophies. We could be competing in the Premier League in the top 7, top 6, whatever. It's a very, very positive, fun time to be an Aston Villa fan, and we're all overdue it over the last 10 years or so that we've had to deal with. So I don't really care who we play in these playoff rounds and what the group stages might look like and whether we're seeded or whether we're not. Emery is in charge of Aston Villa, and I back him to beat anybody. So let's go all the way and win everything. That'll do for this show, John. Thank you very much for joining me, and congratulations once again. Thanks everyone for watching along on Facebook Live and kind of chipping in with questions and pointers. There's a few comments saying, yes, this was clear, or it was clear as mud. So let us know in the YouTube comments whether we've been able to explain it any further. And I hope that we've not spread misinformation here, but I'm pretty sure we're right in the things that we've said. Up next for the channel, the Carlton Blue live show is this Thursday, the 1st of June, which is going to be one hell of a party now that we've qualified for a playoff game in the Europa Conference League. We're recording that live show. It won't be live, but it'll be on the channel probably Saturday or Sunday of this week. And me and you, John, will also be hopefully recording a video about kind of, I don't know how to say this without sounding like a massive, but like the restructure of Claret and Blue, how it will look going into next season, what kind of content we're going to try and do. Like I said, John, thank you for joining me. Thanks everyone for watching along. We hope we've been able to clear this up, and we'll see you on Thursday at Hockey Social Club. Cheers, everyone.